Cinderella Meets Fella is a pretty good adaptation of the story of Cinderella, and I actually rather enjoyed it. At least there's one part of it that I actually really loved. The rest of it I thought was, well, not so bad and probably worth watching. This was released in 1938, directed by Tex Avery and written by Ted Pierce. And I'm not entirely sure about the voice cast because there are quite a few people credited with voicing the same characters. For example, we have Elvia, Allman, and Sarah Berner, both credited on IMDb as the fairy godmother. I didn't catch the names in the credits, so if anybody can confirm exactly who voiced whom, please feel free to do so. It is the traditional story of Cinderella, but with some slightly more contemporary or contemporaneous twists. For example, there's a telephone, and it starts off with the ugly stepsisters and the godmother, the stepmother rather, obviously walking out and telling Cinderella to get on with things. And Cinderella calls for her fairy godmother, and the fairy godmother shows up in a rather unique way. I won't explain anything in too much detail. And the fairy godmother kicks Cinderella out and sends her on the way, and she meets the prince. The prince is actually in the guise of Egghead, who is a relatively interesting character who's appeared in other cartoons. I'm not the biggest fan of the character. I don't dislike him. I don't think there's anything specifically bad about him. I'm just not a fan of the way he's animated. He's consistently animated, but I just don't care for the character that much. So actually, once he came into it, I maybe didn't like it as much as I had been prior to that, but not enough that it stopped me from enjoying it. It's very well animated, it's interesting, it's quirky, there are a lot of visual gags that I think hit the mark pretty much every time, but my favourite part is the fairy godmother. I love her, I love the design of her, I love her mannerisms, I love how she got the mice to come out of the hole. I thought that was particularly clever. The pumpkin I loved, just everything about the sequence with the fairy godmother I adored and had a lot of fun watching it. It's not my favourite version of Cinderella, but that may be one of my favourite versions of the fairy godmother. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Cinderella, I've actually seen, like a lot of people, I've seen so many versions of Cinderella. Films, cartoons, on stage, that I kind of tire of the story. So I like watching these parodies and adaptations and unique interpretations because it always gives a fresh take on a classic tale that I think is maybe overdone. Cinderella Meets Fella is one that I think is definitely worth giving a watch.